Hello everybody, this is Big Daddy Rocker Gamer, and today we're doing something a little bit different. And we're going to try something that I decided to just mention, just called Darkest Talks.
Bestial horrors stampede through the country in wanton herds. Striking with swift ferocity, they spread chaos.
And the idea of the Darkest Talks is very simple. I play Darkest Dungeons too, and I talk about certain...
The crossroads. Wait by the lantern's light, and welcome what help may come.
And I talk about certain subjects that interests me or makes me feel like I need to say something. So basically the idea is for me to ramble for a while, and in the first talk here I have decided to pick upon a subject that's gonna be very difficult for a lot of people, and that is the concepts of loyalty and decency. I'm gonna use an example or two or three from popular culture, and one of those examples, and all of those examples, will be from Lord of the Rings. If you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, that is sort of required reading. Watching, I mean. I think this team will be good.
A fugitive seeking to outpace the past.
So, let us define what is loyalty. Loyalty is described as being having a devotion towards an ideal, an object, a nation, ideology, or even a person. Something that a lot of people probably can recognize, especially in the political climate that we have nowadays. And
Scavenge what you can.
And loyalty is very often a highly valued trait. But loyalty isn't necessarily always good. We'll get back to that a little bit later, because we also need to talk about the other part of the equation, decency. Decency sounds very straightforward and easy to understand, right? I mean, decency is easy for people to understand once they know what we're dealing with. It's behavior that is considered to be acceptable, good, and morally correct to do. So these two concepts have a lot of overlap. But just because they have a lot of overlap doesn't necessarily mean they are the same. Quite far from it. And one of the reasons why we have such a hard time with these things is, first of all, because they do overlap. but more importantly because they do overlap, but more importantly, they separate from each other too, in quite significant ways.
A righteous action.
Decency is depending upon what we as individuals understand it to be. For example, attending someone's funeral when they've died is considered to be a decent thing. And it's important to do the decent thing when you are dealing with other people. But it's also very quickly something that can change depending on societal norms. Because
let them come. Let them
and
break against the bulwark of our defense.
hear me out here, because now we're broaching a subject that many people will probably find a little bit iffy. Sometimes decency can be bad because, after all, it's only decent to make sure that your slaves are properly clothed. See where I'm getting at with this? Decent doesn't always mean good, although it can certainly be good a lot of the time. Loyalty too has this issue. Just because we are loyal doesn't necessarily mean we're good. If what you are loyal to demands you to do things that are, quite frankly, harmful, then maybe you need to rethink the decency of what you're doing.
A breakthrough.
So, in order for me to provide you an example from pop culture, think, when it comes to loyalty, think about Boromir from Lord of the Rings. Boromir is a fantastic example of someone who struggles with decency versus loyalty. He has loyalty towards his father, Ecthelion. He has loyalty towards his brother, Faramir. He has a strong sense of loyalty towards the people of Gondor, where he has spent his entire life and grown up. He has a strong sense of loyalty towards everyone who matters to him, and he has this very strong sense and feeling that he needs to take care of his people. This is why he's drawn to Rivendell and arrives there when the rest of the Fellowship is there, because he's seen in his dream that something big is happening.
Hardships be damned. The day is upon us.
And that a weapon has been found. He doesn't know it's the One Ring itself at the moment he arrives, but he knows that something is changing. Something that can help his land and save his people.
Look to your defenses.
And
they will soon be tested.
So he comes.
Improvement, a new variable in the equation of your fate.
And so he comes.
Each day brings new obstacles. and new
In upgrades, let's see
opportunities.
here. So he comes to Rivendell to participate
An army cannot
with
long
everyone
stand
else
if inadequately resourced.
in this meeting to understand what is going on, what have we found.
Supply lines and swords. This is how wars are won. Experience, however painful, is the greatest teacher of all. The farms and fields of our kingdom, overrun with putrescence and rot. The tainted crop continues to spread its
Yeah,
tendrils
to
of
get back
rot.
to what he said, he comes in expecting I haven't really done this in a while. Here we go. So he comes in expecting there to be a weapon found that can change the war for his people. He comes in knowing that this is significant. And then he learns in the meeting of the One Ring, a weapon that can potentially harm Sauron, and he can use this to his advantage. That's his immediate thought. Like, he should carry the ring to Gondor, and he should be able to use this ring to improve his people's lives. And you understand where he comes from, because it's a very human thing to want to do that. But it very quickly becomes apparent that they have to take the ring to Mordor and destroy it instead. That's what the Fellowship eventually ends up doing. But all of these loyalties towards his father, his nation, his people, all of these loyalties will be tested by the ring, because the ring
and so they must fall.
sneaks up on people and tries to make them give into it by offering unprecedented power to do what you wish for. And this culminates at the end of the first movie, when he does in fact give in. He does in fact surrender to his baser instincts, and he does cave to the ring, and he tries to take it from Frodo. This is the ring playing strongly upon all of Boromir's loyalties, and in the end, for Boromir, the needs of his people wins out. The belief he has that this ring can change the war for my people, it can end my people's suffering, it can make my people's lives much better. that's what eventually turns him around to this. And he betrays Frodo and the Fellowship because he attempts to take the ring from Frodo. And in some ways, you can say that's bad. Of course, it is bad. But it's also very understandable. He has loyalty issues, and he eventually allows the loyalty to his father, the loyalty to his country, the loyalty to the people he considers as his own to win out. And this is in stark contrast to the decent thing, because here we know that the decent thing is in fact to help Frodo reach Mount Doom in Mordor, to throw the ring, because anything else means that you cannot save. You cannot save what you're trying to save here. You cannot save the world by trying to use the ring as a weapon, because it's Sauron's weapon. It doesn't answer to anyone else but Sauron. The decent thing is to help Frodo reach Mount Doom. Boromir fails this basic decency test because of all his strong loyalties. Loyalty alone doesn't mean a success. And similarly,
The enemy weakens and wanes.
when it comes time for his brother Faramir, who has the same loyalties, Faramir has an enormous loyalty towards Ecthelion. He wants Ecthelion to consider him just as high quality as Ecthelion considers Boromir to be. Ecthelion thinks of Boromir extremely highly, especially after Boromir's death. He is always the better brother in the eyes of Ecthelion. That's not necessarily true, but in Ecthelion's view, it is. And Faramir really wants to prove himself. Faramir really wishes to be part
Bravo!
of he really wishes to be part of his father's acceptance. He wants
There remains a foothold out of this
his
mire.
father
Now climb.
to accept him and to cherish him and to love him to the point where he is willing to suffer quite a lot of indignity and even suicide missions, because his father cannot see Boromir for who Boromir actually is. And it's a very sad thing for Faramir.
One less obstacle in our path.
When his father cannot see him. He charges Osgiliath. He's the only one to return alive because his father essentially doomed him. And he has the opportunity at some point to take the ring from Frodo. And he is tempted, because just like Boromir, he has the loyalties to his father, to his country, to the memory of his now dead brother. But Faramir, unlike Boromir, chooses to do the decent thing. He knows, deep down, the only way this ends well is if they destroy the ring. The ring cannot be used as a weapon. He knows that. He understands that. Even if he doesn't necessarily believe it. And so, he, unlike Boromir, lets Frodo and Sam go. I keep forgetting to set skills here. But there is another situation that shows up every now and then that also conflicts the idea of
Lethality writ large.
loyalty and decency. But in this case, it's the unification of a loyal idea of loyalty with the decent choice. And I'm of course talking about Samwise Gamgee. Samwise is loyal to Frodo to a fault. He is so exceptionally loyal to Frodo that he is willing to do literally everything for Frodo. He walks to the ends of the earth for Frodo. He fights Shelob for Frodo. He goes into the towers, Orc Towers in Mordor, to bring out Frodo. He is willing to cross the most extreme lengths for his friend, whom he has unwavering loyalty to. It also happens to be that these things happen to be the decent, moral, correct choice to do. And what do I mean with that? Exactly what I say. He does. He does these things not just because it's the decent thing to do and the right thing to do, but because he genuinely has a love for his friend. He genuinely has no other ambition than to be the best person he can be. And this intersects very well with the ideals of decency, to do the socially acceptable things in society.
All problems have their solutions, even the big ones.
To do the socially accepted things in society. And there is a kind of strength and pleasure in someone doing the decent thing, and it's also the loyal thing, it's the good thing to do. But if you've seen these cases, these videos, you understand that loyalty and decency can give you...
Safe, but uncivilized.
It can give you
Let us face
problems.
the coming cruelties undaunted.
When I say problems, I mean...
Be mindful. Travel on foot is not without risk.
Where did my thinking go? Yeah.
Anticipate, adapt, and reposition.
Oh, I don't have the abomination. That's sad.
Our great cities burn. All that beauty and knowledge. Ash on the wind.
Decency and loyalty very often conflict with each other. And some of the more interesting stories when it comes to, for example, Hollywood and movies, showcases loyalty conflicts and decency conflicts. And some of the best villains are the people who choose to remain loyal over the people who choose to be decent. Not always the case, because there are a lot of great targets who choose to stay loyal as well. They choose loyalty as their virtue rather than the accepted norms of decency, and that too can lead to a lot of interesting stories and a lot of good stories.
Desperate and wanting.
But more often than not, the relics. More often than not, you have
It is ours now.
an interest in... it's a much more interesting dynamic when you see... when you see people have an internal conflict about what the correct thing to do is versus loyalty towards something. And very often it can... Oh, burning pile. Let's see. Fight, fight. Run away. Okay, let's fight. And I completely lost my train of thoughts again here. Yeah, conflict between decency and loyalty. Because loyalty can make you do a lot of things that might not be very decent. But on the other hand, decency is very dependent on the society we are in. Because not all things that happen will be decent by everyone's standard. Oh, I thought you were moving back with that skill. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I haven't really planned this talk. It's just, as I said, me rambling on about what I think. But to draw upon it in real life, I'm fairly sure a lot of people can say that loyalty is bad when you consider other people's loyalties. What do I mean with that? If you're not a MAGA person, you might consider people who follow MAGA to be blindly loyal. But you don't consider that to be an issue for yourself. Because, after all, you're not blindly following those ideals, but you might be following something else. You might have a blind loyalty to something else. Some of those things could be a different ideology. It could be it could be a different ideology. It could be a different religion, maybe. Maybe what you are following is a system of beliefs. Maybe you have blind faith in a person. This person is in your eyes, this person is just an all-around decent person that knows things better than you do. And so you choose to follow that person no matter what that person do, because this person does right by you. But if that person is a hardened criminal, maybe that person isn't someone you should consider following. Because it might not be a decent choice. If
myriad options require careful deliberation.
If you're blindly loyal to your ideology, you might not see people for who they really are. If you are belonging to the very far left, for example, you've been trained to see people as different groups and minorities.
They are heroes. The Wainwright awaits,
But
eager to ply his trade.
If all you see is their minority status, then you might not actually see the bad things they do. And we see it a lot here in modern times when people talk about you can't be racist if you're a specific color, because racism to them is power and privilege. So someone who they consider to be underprivileged and not be in power is incapable of being racist no matter what they do.
What fresh
But that's not necessarily how it works.
The enemy looks to test our mettle. Anticipate, adapt, and reposition. Distribute your champions judiciously. Our great cities burn.
Yeah.
All that beauty and knowledge, ash on the wind. Supply lines and swords. This is how wars are won. Precious relics remind us of a time before the end. Learn what can be taught, that you may stand just a little taller at the end.
Oh boy, they don't like each other. And, yeah. Decency is societal,
Behold,
and there's a lot of
great
things that are
cities of
not
man, ruined.
decent
aflame.
always. Because what's considered acceptable behavior for a conservative versus a radical
The fog is
might
parted.
very well not be the same
Always
things.
made clear.
And so, what one would consider decent behavior, and the other one would consider wrong behavior. Who's correct? Because decency is, again, depending on context.
Lament the knowledge taken by the
Loyalty
fires of these
is all well and
fanatics.
good. But loyalty and decency very often come at odds. And, yeah. If you're one of the people who are struggling to figure out where you belong on that scale, are you a loyal person? And if you're a loyal person, are you a decent person? Hard choice. Hard concepts. And I don't have the answer for you. I wish I did. The simple truth is, the only answer I can provide is my own answers. My own ideas. I think decency very often is more important than loyalty. But I could be wrong.
Measure out your
Because
violence and apply it judiciously.
if you're a decent person, you might not be considered very loyal. And for some people, not being loyal is much more of a sin in their eyes than doing indecent things but remaining loyal. I once heard it said that religion is the only reason why decent people will do evil things. Why good people will do... It's the only reason why good people will do evil things, I think the saying goes. I don't think that's correct. I think loyalty
Simple variable.
is the reason
Easily
why
resolved.
people will do evil things. And loyalty isn't depending upon religion. It's not depending on anything other than your own devotion to whatever it is you're committed to. Someone who would never consider killing anyone might do so for loyalty to their country, or they might do so for loyalty to their family. They might do so for the loyalty to the cause that they currently believe in. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I do say that it might not be the decent choice. And again, decency is very context dependent upon
and be off once more.
the society that you are in. And that society can change its norms.
If you hope to heal, you have chosen wisely.
And one great example is Bash the Fash. You've heard the expression, you know what it means. It's completely socially acceptable within certain groups to attack and kill and even possibly hurt people one consider as fascists. So the question then becomes, can we define people as fascist? If you can, it's good for you, isn't it?
Even the worst habits can be overcome.
Because if you can define someone as a fascist, then it's okay to enact violence upon them. Even if that person might not be fascist. And that's a very slippery slope to go down. And I know this, just me saying this will probably make someone angry. And I get that. It's okay to be angry. You're allowed to. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that maybe things are not as black and white as you always think they are. This is why we call this the darkest talks, because sometimes conversations like these will not be easy. They still need to be had. If you consider harming other people,
These crumbling ruins may yet
if
have
you
some shelter
seriously
to
consider doing damage to people,
offer. Moving alone in hostile territory, let us hope for their safe arrival. Distribute your champions judiciously.
simply because of you don't like the beliefs they have,
Blinding snow,
or because
biting winds, and lurking in the furor. Oblivion.
you consider them to be bad people, or because of any other reason you can really think of. You might want to question where your loyalties are,
and
because,
vexation.
as I said, I find that loyalty is very often the reason people do the things they do. And if loyalty is the reason you consider it entirely legitimate to attack someone,
Agony by accumulation.
then you probably do need to consider
Promising development.
a lot of things, because that might not be the decent thing to do.
Measure out your violence and apply it judiciously.
But then again, if you are one of the people who considers right, yeah, okay, fine, I'll take it. If you are one of the people who considers certain things to fall into category of decency, certain acts of violence, for example, I'm not gonna say you're wrong, but you might want to question those beliefs. I know I would. As someone who has done more than my fair share of mistakes over the life, I know how hard it can be to question your own beliefs and your own loyalties. But sometimes we need to. Sometimes we need to, because the alternative is much worse. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say because I feel I'm just repeating the same points now. What is decent changes from what is considered acceptable within your circle. And loyalty can make you break your own decencies quite a lot. And that's something to be considered too. Oh man. Yeah, we're gonna go off for cash here.
This stretch, a welcome reprieve.
I don't know if Darkest talks is something that I will continue doing, because it's depending very much on if I feel like I have anything to contribute and talk about, and if it's anything I find interesting enough. I've found it very interesting to see how loyalty is a growing concern and ideal lately. With that, I of course mean our current American president. You know the guy. He's apparently a very good golfer. I understand that he has a rather lax sense of what people are allowed to do as long as they are loyal to him. They can do whatever they want. And that could be dangerous. It could be dangerous because loyalty alone doesn't mean it's gonna be the decent choice. Dismas and Junior really don't like each other. Sometimes doing the decent thing will break loyalty. And breaking loyalty always has consequences.
A calculated generosity, but a welcome one nonetheless.
And the price of loyalty, so to speak, can be fairly damaging. What do I mean by that? Well, let's use Donald Trump as an example again. If someone proves to be disloyal to Donald Trump, you don't believe that's gonna have any kind of repercussions at all? Of course it will.
In these times. Savor it.
Donald Trump's not gonna suffer illoyal people. He's not going to accept people turning him down and being disloyal to him. Just like that.
Messy.
If loyalty really is a big deal for him,
gentle.
There is no way
But deadly
someone
all
like
the
Donald
same.
Trump will accept disloyal actions. And disloyal actions could be anything from ratting him out to, you know, just disagreeing with him. It depends on entirely on what kind of a person Donald Trump is. Behind closed doors.
This wound, at least, has been
Oh,
tended
ouch. Yeah, execution. Okay, good,
to. A
good.
simple variable, easily resolved.
And decency. Again, societally demanded. If you're a Christian person,
Lost and desperate.
then one of the decent
They need
things
your
to
help.
do is help people, preferably
Mind your
anonymously.
wheels. They
And,
have nothing left to give.
If you can't help, at least not cause any further harm. But if you're also
Upon their noble struggle,
a person loyal
be
to,
humbled by it.
for example, Donald Trump, then he might require you to do something against your own personal loyalties, decencies. It's just something to consider. And I am worried that people will choose blind loyalty
Humbled by exposure and neglect.
and
This ramshackle inn is a welcome sight, nevertheless.
things that are not
Victory cannot be achieved without investment
what I
and
would call
infrastructure. Without tail, there can be no tooth. A smoother ride. For a time at least. Good. An improvement.
okay, cool. Yeah,
Precious relics remind
one of my
us
bigger
a time
worries
before the end.
is that people will choose
Hardships be damned. The day is upon us. Listen. Practice. Improve.
let me just see here. Can I get read? It's pretty good. They don't like each other at all. Oh well.
We can suffer no sickness on this pilgrimage. Each improvement, a new variable in the equation of your fate. Distribute your champions judiciously. Anticipate, adapt, and reposition. The tainted crop continues to
I'm gonna
spread
rest
its
up.
tendrils of rot.
And I think that's it for this.
Cruelty and callousness have claimed dominion here.
Episode. I'm sorry I didn't really plan this more thoroughly. I should have done it.
The rancid crop grows
Now let's
unchecked
just
and abhorrent.
take this and this. That's good. And this. Alright. That's it for this time. I am going to exit the game. And thank you for coming to my darkest talks. I have a couple of other subjects I want to reach upon, and but that will have to remain a secret until next time. So don't be blindly loyal, and check the value system of what is considered decent within your in-group. And also check if what you consider decent is in conflict with your loyalties. Because your loyalties might require you to break your sense of decency, and that might very much end up making you hate yourself. And that's not something I wish for anyone. So think about it, sort it out in your head, and reach your own conclusions. That's what you have to do. That's what we all have to do. And this is Big Daddy Rocker Gamer. This was Darkest Talks. And I'll see you next time.